Welcome into the PHNX Suns podcast brought to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's top-rated sportsbook app. I'm Lindsey Smith, and I am joined by Gerald Bourguet and Espo. Guys, how are you doing today?
You know, I'm in PHNX health and safety protocols because I got a fever, and the only prescription is more Suns wins. All right, and I'm actually quarantining, so that too. But
Espo, I mean, it's been a rough protocols right now.
It's been a rough week for that prescription. Then we've only got 2 games this week. You need more Suns wins.
Yes, I do. But they are still the best team in the NBA, so get excited.
Hey, maybe it'll come this Friday. It should very well come this Friday for you. Another Suns win over the Celtics. But until then, we're going to hold it down here live today. We'll have an audio-only podcast for you guys tomorrow. But I want to start today's show with something that kind of hit social media a few days ago, but we haven't had an opportunity to really discuss it. So one Kendrick Perkins had some things to say about Chris Paul and the MVP race, or the MVP conversation anyway. Let's hear what he had to say, and then let's talk about it.
There's no disrespect to DeAndre Ayton. I think he's playing phenomenal basketball. No disrespect to Devin Booker or Mikal Bridges and everybody else who has contributed. But look, let's take it a step further. Why is Chris Paul not in the conversation of MVP? Okay? I understand Steph Curry, Giannis, and Kevin Durant, but Chris Paul need to be in that top 5 conversation. We need to keep the same energy that we had when Steve Nash won the MVP, when he was averaging 15 points and 11 assists. Right now, Chris Paul is averaging 14 points, 10 and a half assists. They're on an 18-game winning streak, and they arguably are the best team in the league right now. So the ultimate floor general, and on top of that, you know who's the most clutch player in the fourth quarter?
Mr. Chris Paul.
Chris Paul.
And doing it without
Put that man in the conversation as MVP, because everybody get caught up on, he had 50, he had this. But no, look at the effect that he's having on winning.
All right. Well, we know Perk's thoughts. So, gentlemen, what are your thoughts on this conversation?
I think Kendrick Perkins deserves a spot on the NBA announcer Mount Rushmore right now, because this guy brings some very hot takes. But I think that people underestimate the intelligence behind a lot of it. They think he's just one of those talking heads that's trying to, stir things up. But he has some very, very well thought out takes, and this is one of those situations. Yes, flashy numbers usually get you MVP, but when you look at what Chris Paul's doing, how his impact has changed this franchise, not just this season, but obviously last year as well. And you look at the clutch minutes. I mean, the stats are insane. Highest plus minus in the clutch. He scored 40 points in 34 clutch minutes this year. He's 11 of 17 shooting, and has 5 rebounds, 13 assists. He has 2 blocks in those clutch minutes. He is doing everything you could want out of a guy when it comes down to winning the game. He is the ultimate closer. I talked about it the other night. And not to mention, he's 4th in total in steals per game in the league. This guy gets it done on both ends of the court, and his mindset has permeated this entire franchise.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with Espo and with Perk that he needs to be in that conversation. And, if we stop the voting today, if the season ended today, I would probably put him in the top 5. My question is, where does he belong in the top 5? Because, we can talk about MVP races and MVP candidates, but I don't know if I'm putting him up there with Steph Curry right now. And it's no disrespect to Chris Paul, because what he's doing at age 36 as arguably the best player on arguably the best team in the league is incredible. Leading the league in assists, 4th in steals, what he's doing in the clutch, how he's doing it with Devin Booker missing the last 3 or 4 games. That's been very impressive, and he definitely belongs in that conversation. But I need to know, where exactly are you guys putting him in that top 5 ranking there?
I think right now it's he and Steph are interchangeable. I think you can make solid arguments for both, but the one that puts it over the top for me is the Suns' 18-game win streak, what he meant to that, and just these clutch minutes, how unbelievable he's been. Most valuable player to me is the guy that helps one of the best teams in the league and has the biggest impact on them. And right now, you can say that for him, for CP3, and you can say that for Steph. Anybody else, I don't think is within shouting distance in this argument, honestly.
Lindsey, what are your thoughts?
This is a hard one for me because I don't know, to be honest with you. I do think Chris Paul should absolutely be within the conversation, but I don't feel like I have enough, I don't know, whatever. My opinion doesn't matter enough to have one in this situation, I guess you could say, is sort of how I'm
Don't sell
feeling.
yourself short.
I do think he should be within the conversation, but I think it's just such a subjective way that this vote is determined to begin with, right? Because there are no definitive factors. There's no definitive definition about why or how or what we determine is deserving of an MVP award. So it's so subjective. And I think that makes it such a hard conversation to have and such a hard opinion to really formulate. But I think you should absolutely be within the conversation because, like you said, Gerald, arguably the best team in the NBA and arguably the best player on the team. So he 100% should at least be in the conversation.
Right. My thing is, go ahead, Linz. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, my thing is when you're comparing Chris and Steph, like you could make the same argument best player on the best team in the league for Steph and the Warriors. They have identical records. The Warriors have a better point differential. They check out better in offensive and defensive rating. And I'm not saying that means the Warriors are the best team in the league or that they would beat the Suns in a 7-game series. I'm still taking the Suns. But right now, based on the numbers that we have in front of us with this very short snippet of the season, like the Warriors have been statistically the best team, and Steph, his numbers are better than Chris Paul's. So I know that Chris Paul has had this impact on winning that's hard to tangibly put out there. But like for MVP, if you're looking at big numbers, narrative, team success, Curry has all three of those elements in a way that Chris Paul, to this point, in my opinion, just doesn't quite stack up.
I think that's where age comes in, though. You have to factor in Chris Paul's age and the mileage on him as well coming into this and being able to do this and being smart about the way he's playing. I think he could go out there and still drop 23 on an average in a night, but he's pacing himself because he understands it. And the other factor I put into this is just the intelligence at which he plays this game. I mean, those rip through fouls that he draws are just genius. Everybody knows it's coming. Nobody seems to be able to not fall for it. And he knows exactly how it's still allowed within the rule book. All these factors to me put him right there with Steph. Now, I tend to agree that probably right now, just because of the flashiness, Steph would get the nod. Because that's just what the national media likes to look at. And in the end, it comes down to a lot of that. Who's had the bigger highlight plays? Because all the voters in this aren't watching every single Suns game, nor are they watching every single Warriors game in most cases. So highlights will play into it. But, I think Steph would get the nod, but CP3 deserves the praise, deserves to be right there with Steph for what he's been able to do. Fabio in the chat says, I think Steph is a little above CP3 this season because Steph doesn't have a Booker. I think that's a fair argument. And Coach Evan B says Curry 1, CP3 2, Durant 4, or Durant 3, Booker 4, Giannis and Jokic at 5. I think that those are all fair. I'm not arguing here to say it'd be insane to put Steph over CP3. I get that argument, but everybody else, I don't think they're within that range of those two guys thus far in the season.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're dealing with really small sample sizes, so every win that the Suns have ahead of these other teams is amplified because they are, the fact that they're this far ahead of pretty much everyone except the Warriors in the standings is impressive, given they've only played like 24 games. I do think Giannis and KD are already there, and they're probably going to pass Chris Paul in those rankings just because like the Bucks were on a win streak there. The Nets are figuring some stuff out after James Harden was garbage for them the first couple weeks of the season. Those wins are going to stack up, and those guys they just have better numbers than Chris Paul. And like with Steph, he's averaging like double the amount of points that Chris Paul is right now. But I don't think we should lose track of Chris Paul being in this conversation. Just like last year, like he should absolutely be in the conversation. I don't know if he'll have the numbers to win it unless the Suns just win like 5 or 6 more games than everybody else, and it's just it feels unfair to leave him out or to not have him. But just the fact that we're even talking about this at age 36 is incredible. I just don't want to make the same mistake that Lakers fans made with LeBron. Was it last year when he got off to that hot start? They're like, look at what he's doing at age 36. Like he's leading the league in assists and he's doing all this at age 36. And the biggest thing for his case was that he was doing it at an older age, not what he was actually doing when Giannis was like the clear front runner. So I don't want to make that same mistake. I love Chris Paul. He makes me laugh about 3 to 5 times every single night because he just does things that nobody else in the league does as far as his competitive fire goes. But yeah, I hope he remains in this conversation. I just wouldn't put him at number 1 right now.
Look, I love small samples. I was just to say, I love small sample size theater. There's nothing like it. I mean, sure, it's 20 plus games, but let's determine who's the champion and who's the MVP right now. Why not?
Why not? There's no arguing that Chris Paul is absolutely valuable to the Suns team. I have 2 additional questions about this. The first one is, and Coach Evan B in the chat brought it up. Shouldn't CP3 and Book both be in the conversation? Do you think that Devin should be in the conversation as well?
I think he's a top 10 candidate. I would have a hard time putting him ahead of Chris Paul as far as the best MVP candidate for the Suns. Booker has been just as good in the clutch. Like he's been putting up insane numbers in crunch time situations too. So he does deserve some love in this. I would say he's a top 10 candidate for sure. Probably like number 7. I think Jimmy Butler's probably like in 6th there. But yeah, I think him missing the last 3 or 4 games kind of hurts his case a little bit. Especially, with 24 games, that's like 1/6 of the season. So, yeah, that would be my thing.
Yeah, in small sample size theater, he doesn't qualify right now in my books to be higher than CP3. But I actually think if Devin Booker comes back and go, not if he comes, he's coming back, but when he comes back, if he goes on one of his hot streaks and puts up big numbers, he could wind up being the more realistic MVP candidate out of the Suns, just simply because those flashy numbers are what usually gets it done. But to your point, Lindsey, I struggle with that because to me, the definition of a most valuable player is the guy that does everything that you need. It's not just flashy numbers. It's great to drop 25 a game, but if that's primarily what you're doing, that doesn't get it done for me. You've got to do it on both ends of the floor. You got to be able to rebound. You got to be able to pass. You got to be smart, in the way you do it. You got to be good in the clutch. These are all things that CP3 has done. Devin Booker does it as well. So if you add in, hey, he gets up to averaging 24, 25 points and puts up some of those numbers, I think he's more likely to be in the conversation later in the season, just because it's easier to argue those visuals statistic wise.
I think for me, at the end of the day, the most important thing is that I feel like both of them deserve to at least be within the conversation. Maybe not, at least at this point, you can't definitively say either one of them should win it 100%. But I think just from a respect factor of what this team did last year and what they're currently doing right now, they should at least be within the conversation. I think that's only fair. So my last question I have for you guys is, in the 1980-1981 season, the award changed from being voted upon by players in the league to sports writers and broadcasters who cover the league. Do you think it should go back to having players be the one who determine this?
I think I think it should be a mix, like they do with the All-Star, and put weight towards both. Players aren't watching every game, but they know what it's like to go up against a guy on the court. Media tends to watch more of it, but overall, this is a ridiculous exercise in general. It's basically prom king and queen. It's just a popularity contest, and who gives a crap? Like in the end, in a lot of cases. But to me, there's probably a better way to vote for it. But to go to the effort to try to figure out what that is, tabulate it, do all that, is it really even worth it for something that is a pat on the back in the end, and nothing more than that when it comes down to it, really?
Yeah, I mean, I every year I like to look at the player vote returns for All-Star game, and that almost always makes a good case for it staying the way that it is. I mean, I'm not going to act like the media is all knowing, or like this new or newer, I guess, format hasn't gotten it wrong over the last 40 some years. But like by and large, the MVP is usually awarded to the right player. And I know there have been some pretty notable exceptions, but I like the way that the voting breaks down. I like that it's in the hands of people that it's their job to watch these teams and these players on a night to night basis. And like Espo was saying, a lot of these guys, if you're playing in the league, you're not going to be looking around watching teams play on the same night as you all the time. I think a lot of it will come down, if it changed to something like player voting on MVP, it would come down to like reputation or like narrative. And I think that should only be part of these conversations. Obviously, if a guy has like an incredible seat, like when Russell Westbrook won MVP, that felt right, not just because he was putting up insane numbers and averaged a triple double and whatnot, but because Kevin Durant had just left and he led the Thunder to the playoffs that year without him. Like, we can't act like that narrative wasn't a part of the story, and it was really cool. But like, I feel like if it was players only, it would hinge a lot on like reputation, and there wouldn't be as much substance behind it. There wouldn't be as much maybe research or debate behind it. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents. I'm not gonna act like the media always gets it right, but we usually do a pretty decent job, I feel like.
Look, I feel like it would actually benefit CP3 if it was players, based on your reputation argument, because there's such reverence for Chris Paul around the league that I think he'd actually wind up getting more votes that way than he does with the media. Whether that's right or wrong, that's for everybody to make their own mind up on. But I think he would get more attention. What I need to know though, Gerald, about this, because it'll make me understand your opinion more. Do you have an MVP vote? Because I could see if you have it, you're like, nope, can't take that away from the media.
No, but that's the goal one day, Espo. One day soon.
Right. All right, fine. By that date, we need to get this back in players' hands. All right. So.
All right, gentlemen, we have talked a lot about Chris Paul off the top of the show, and rightfully so. He deserves a lot of attention, a lot of respect and praise. But somebody who oftentimes can be underappreciated on this team is one Jae Crowder. And Gerald, you wrote about Jae Crowder and the contributions that he brings to this team that don't always show up on the box score, but are very, very important to the success of this team at gophnx.com. So give us a brief overview as to what you went into within your article, and then let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the idea kind of stemmed. It was perfect timing because the night I wrote it, he had a season high. What was it, 17 or 19?
19.
19.
Yeah, he had 19. And the whole, like, that Spurs win, obviously the big story was Chris Paul, because he went off in the fourth quarter. He had like 10 points in the fourth. He led the team in scoring. He had that clutch steal on DeJounte Murray. Like, it was all the Chris Paul show. And I feel like ever since that offseason, just over a year ago, when Chris Paul first came to town, Jae Crowder's influence, like, we talk about it, but maybe not as much as we should, in terms of not just his leadership and as a veteran guy, but also just his impact on winning and his defense and what he brings to the table. I know he can be streaky. And I got a lot of comments from Suns fans saying, like, we understand how important he is. Like, we value him. And I think that's true, but I think when Jae Crowder goes on one of those cold streaks, it's easy for a certain section of Suns Twitter to be like, bench him, put Cam Johnson in. And I feel like we kind of overlook what he brings to the table, both on and off the floor, because that finals run last year wouldn't have been possible without him. Like Chris Paul was obviously the catalyst, but when you get a guy like Jae Crowder on that 3-year deal and it kind of flies under the radar, I don't know. It just kind of it was, like I said, it was perfect timing because he had his best offensive game of the season. He was putting the ball on the floor. He was hitting floaters and, you know, doing their little floaty celebration that they like to do, him and Mikal Bridges. But yeah, I and the numbers kind of speak to that a little bit too, because the Suns' net rating is substantially better when he's on the court compared to when he's off the court. You know, his individual numbers are down, but when your net rating jumps from 1.7 without him to 9.9 when he plays, like that's a pretty significant swing. He's got the third best plus minus in clutch minutes behind Chris Paul and Mikal Bridges. And yeah, he's playing a lot with the starters, so that helps. But he's been very good for them in fourth quarters. He's hit a lot of shots that maybe they're not daggers, but they're shots that either get you back into the game when the Suns are trailing, or they bury a team because you're trying so hard to stop Chris Paul, to stop Devin Booker, and then Jae Crowder hits a corner three and gets the crowd fired up. Like, that's devastating to a defense. So he's kind of a guy that flies under the radar, but I wanted to draw attention to him because Boss Man has been great and the numbers aren't great so far this season, but you know, he's dealing with a lot of mental and physical fatigue from the last 2 to 3 years. And I thought he deserved some love for, you know, what he's kind of fighting through physically and mentally, and how impactful he is on this team.
Look, you gotta love Spicy J. If Chris Paul came in last year and taught these guys how to play the game, kind of approach it as pros and those at that next level, Jae Crowder came in and taught them how to have an attitude, how to have a swagger, how to play like a team that you don't want to mess with, especially when it comes playoff time. Jay taught these young guys how to do that. And that's one of those things that you're never going to see in a stat sheet. You're never going to, you know, quantify that in any way, but it's so damn important because Jae Crowder and that attitude and the way he approaches things, it changed the mentality of this group. Think about the turning point in that Lakers series. It was when they saw the Lakers, you know, dancing and making fun of them on the sideline, and all of a sudden Suns come in, kick him in the teeth. In game 6, Jay's like, I didn't forget that. I'm going to salsa dance right here. I know I'm getting thrown out, so I'm going to sprint off the court. But that's the kind of guy that the Suns, in a lot of their playoff runs, just didn't have. They didn't have that attitude. I mean, you could point to maybe a Raja Bell being that kind of guy, but there's a swagger when it comes to Jae Crowder. And I love that about him. And I love that it has become part of this team's identity. The floaties, like you mentioned, with him and Mikal, him dancing the other night after a nice pass. Like, these things, while they seem ridiculous, I actually think have a very big impact on why this team is so close-knit and why other teams really don't want to mess with these guys, because they know the Suns are tough. And if you mess with them, you're probably going to get it right back. So
Code JJM said, Jay Salsa 3-pointer is like that last nail in the coffin. And I completely agree. I feel like he just has those, in addition to what he brings on the court, as far as Espo, like you're saying, the way that he brings this team together. There's very few people in the league, I feel like, who can rally a group of guys so quickly the way that Jae Crowder can. He knocks down one bucket, and then whether it's a celebration or a little bit of smack talk or whatever, it just invigorates this entire team. And the whole team is like, yes, let's do this. Let's go. And I love that about Jay. Gerald, to your point, it's kind of funny to watch or to see the comments under your article, because you're right. It's 50-50. Well, I guess like 60-40 maybe. But a lot of people are like, we see it, we recognize it. And then there are other people who are like, yeah, I don't know about that one. So there are some conflicting opinions, but I think we all are in agreement here that we are Team Jae Crowder.
yeah, plus first or second best hair on the team. It depends on how you feel about Devin Booker's hair, but Jae brings that unique look. There's no denying when you see that hair, you go, oh, it's Jae Crowder, or it's the Patriots logo. So
you're gonna say Jae Crowder and Devin are the top two hairs on this team?
Well, Frank's got a better beard, but I can't count his hair as that. Who are you?
To the beard.
Are you gonna throw Cam Johnson crap at me here as Cam's
Johnson
hair
has great hair.
Cam doesn't do anything to have that hair. He just lets it grow.
I think we're all.
And Devin just lets it grow and cuts it in a certain way.
Those lines are natural.
He just cuts it in a certain way.
I'm not going to say he has the best hair, but I'm disappointed you guys are overlooking Dario Saric's beautiful flowing hair these days. It's long. It's fabulous.
True.
He's got some white.
Part of the team.
Oh,
haven't we traded him already?
Oh, Espo. I mean, it's funny you say that when we were talking about Pacers trades like all day yesterday, and it hurt my heart to talk about Dario Saric in that way. But last thing I had to say on Jae. This is a stat for the people that don't see his impact or don't feel like he's that important. When Crowder's been on the court, the Suns have outscored their opponents by 135 points this season. When he sits, it's only plus 18. So that's a big gap between how good the Suns are with him on the court versus with him off the court. He's also shooting 38% in fourth quarters, and he's 5 for 10 in crunch time scenarios. So the guy hits big shots. He's important to what they do, and he's a very important fit with that starting unit as well.
Yeah, clutch, smart, and plays tough-nosed defense, hard-nosed defense too, which can't be overlooked. He's the ultimate glue guy that you like to have around teams with championship aspirations. I don't think it's a coincidence that Miami and the Suns made it to the finals with Jae on the roster. He has a lot to do with that. Fabio, Dario's facial hair? No, Dario's facial hair doesn't count in this. And then I'd go JJM. Wait until Elford brings back vintage Peyton, the hair in front of the eyes, which is always great for a guy shooting jump shots, you know.
I know I'm in the minority on that one, but I definitely love that hairstyle.
Hey, if he wasn't a basketball player, I would have thought it was really cool. But anytime your hair is defending you better than the guy assigned to, that's problematic.
I get it, but I still just really liked it. But oh well, it's gone, and we'll move on from it. All right, we're going to take a quick break because I'm going to tell all of the football fans that are listening that DraftKings, the sportsbook app, has a no-brainer bet for you guys to take advantage of. So DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL, and you'll be a winner once a single point's scored when you download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the promo code PHNX when you sign up. Now, after you use that code, just go place a $1 bet on any NFL team to score, and you're going to win $100 in free bets instantly once a single point scored. It is that simple. It's the latest no-brainer bet from the DraftKings Sportsbook app. So be sure to take advantage of that if you have not already become a member of the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Now, if you are a member, be sure to look at, if you haven't been on that app in a while, tinker around on there a little bit. Make sure you check your emails from them, because last night I got a 50% odds boost from DraftKings. They just sent me an email and they said, hey, here's something special for you. 50% odds boost on any NBA game tonight. Take advantage of it. And those kind of things are really cool. So you get a bonus for signing up. Then you get special offers for just being on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. So it's a win-win for everyone who is involved. Obviously, I've told you before, it's safe, it's reliable, it's secure. You can withdraw and deposit your money whenever you want, and it's really user-friendly. So once again, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. Use the promo code PHNX, bet $1 on any NFL team to score, and win $100 in free bets. If they score, you score with the promo code PHNX this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. That is 21 and older only, Arizona only. Gambling problem, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. New customers only. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. All right, guys, we're going to get into our final segment of the show here, and we are going to talk all about nicknames, because earlier this week it came out that Landry Shamet has had some very interesting nicknames throughout his career, and he also has a new nickname given to him by one of his current teammates. Gerald, you were there when he talked about this. Do you want to give us the breakdown?
Yeah, he was talking about how, he only had one nickname for most of his life until he came to the NBA. And then with every team that he's been on, he's had like 10 different nicknames. So they were talking in practice, and he mentioned that Mikal Bridges, I think Jae Crowder had called him Shamrock, and he was like, just add it to the list. And then he told us that Mikal Bridges had dubbed him Sham and Cheese, which is fantastic. I know Espo's not going to agree with me on this. It cracked me up. And of course, that nickname came from Mikal Bridges too. If anyone was going to give him that nickname, it was Mikal.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I thought that
you
was
didn't jump
funny.
in and go, hey, how about Shamwet? Nothing? Fine.
I did not volunteer that information. I'm sorry I let you down, Espo. But I'm curious.
Not the quality teammate that I thought you were, man.
I know. I'm sorry. I'll give you a better nickname to come up with it. But it did get me thinking, like, what are some of his other nicknames? If he's got like 10 or 20 different nicknames, because Shamet said if you asked any guy on the Suns, they could legitimately list off 10 different nicknames that he has. So I need to know I need to find this full list and get it out to the public, because the people need to know this.
We do need to know that. Well, we know that we've got Shamwet and ShamWow. Those have come off of Twitter. Then you can add in like Champagne if you're doing like the duo Landry Shamet and Campaign. And then the one that came out when he was talking, that he said one of his worst nicknames, I think, wasn't it Land Shark?
Yeah, TJ McConnell called him that when he was in Philly, apparently. And apparently whenever he would hit a three, he would do like the shark fin on his head, and that was the thing that they would do, which is just terrible all around. But you got to love the Aussie for that one.
Yeah, for sure. So that conversation and just the funness that came out of that day at practice inspired us to rank and file our picks for the best current player on the Suns team's nickname. So we went ahead and picked those nicknames, and we're gonna rank and file them and decide who has the best list. And you guys chime in the chat. If you're listening to this on audio, let us know on Twitter what you think, or if we missed a really good one. So, Espo, do you want to go first and share your list?
Yeah, I love that you guys included like little notes that I put in there for you in the graphics, but that's fine. We'll let it ride. So number one for me is point God. I mean, anytime that you're compared to a Didi and you live up to it, that deserves to be number one on the list. None of this CP3 crap. That's not a good nickname. That's just initials in your number. But point God, yeah, that's next level. The Warden definitely deserves to be there at number two. Don't give me the Blade or whatever Suns broadcast is trying to push. Give me the Warden. You're on lockdown when you're playing against Mikal, both offensively and defensively. You're there. Bossman 99. That's kind of badass, right? I mean, when you're Jae Crowder and Bossman is your nickname, that's awesome. Frank the Tank, aka Kaminsky Cove. It's a solid nickname. It comes with very fun gifts and graphics that you can do. So I'll go there. And if we can put the graphic back up, I don't remember what 5 was. Okay, it was Book. Again, it's a shortening of the name, but he's owned it. So when he's the best player on your team, I'll include it. But honorable mention is Slam Johnson. When Cam posterizes a guy, that is one of the best nicknames that there is. So,
okay. I mean,
I like Coach JJM's. What about Kingslayer for Booker, because he took down LeBron in the playoffs? I like that.
Maybe if we get a Suns Lakers playoff matchup again and he takes him down, I'd be on board with it. I don't know about just once when Anthony Davis is out, but it's a pretty solid list. For me, I got point guard at number one as well. Anytime you can have a play on point guard that pays homage to him as an actual god, I mean, that's a just certifiably dope nickname. The Warden, I feel like, is underrated. We haven't really settled on a definitive Mikal Bridges nickname. You go to Twitter and There's like a bunch of different things. I'm not on board with the blade. Like I get it because he's slender and he cuts, I guess, but like I'm just not feeling the blade. The homie Dario Saric, I don't know where this came from or why, but I just like it. And you know, Super Dario's great too, but the homie's, you can't go wrong with the homie. Frank the Tank, big fan of old school, and Frank Kaminsky would be right at home living in that universe, that cinematic universe. So Frank the Tank is great. And Sham and Cheese, I'm sorry, it's just funny. Like I can't take it seriously. I'm well aware that it's not like a really cool nickname, but it's too funny for me to not have on my list.
I feel like that
I
has
think
to be a
it's kind of a
nickname
cool
for a
nickname.
duo. Like, I feel like Sham and Cheese should be like if him and you know, and JaVale hung out a lot. It's Ham and Cheese or Sham and Cheese. Like I'm like, okay, I could feel that. But as a one man nickname, like why are there two things? I don't quite get it.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make sense if you think about it that way, but it just makes me laugh that Mikal Bridges called him Sham and Cheese because I guess his 3-pointers can be the cheese. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe or the alley oops to JaVale McGee. That's the cheese just flying through the air.
Well, yeah, because it could be like cheese, cash money, right? Like get that cheddar.
Yeah, there you go.
Could be along. I like where your head's at with this, Gerald. I like it.
I mean, he did get that bag, so I guess that works.
Yeah.
I think it adds a little bit because I can just picture Mikal calling him Sham and Cheese, and I think that would be very enjoyable. Like it would just be really funny having Mikal call Andre Sham and Cheese. So I think that's why it's on the list for me. But I'm with you guys as far as the first one goes. So Point God, no explanation beyond what you guys already said needed there. Number 2 for me is the homie with Dario. I love the homie because I use that to describe my friends all the time. Like, I think I've said it on this show before when Kellen Elson gets brought up. I'm like, Kellen's the homie. I just think it's such a good term of endearment. You know what I mean? So if that's your nickname, if your nickname is synonymous with a term of endearment, you're winning in life. It's a solid nickname. 3 for me is Book because sometimes, listen, obviously I like a ridiculous nickname like Sham and Cheese and what my number 5 pick is, but there is something to be said about it, just a classic shortening of your name nickname when you are especially as incredible of a player as Devin Booker is. So Book is always going to be in the top few for me. 4, Sham and Cheese. We already talked about that. And then number 5, Big Daddy Wookie. Now this one kills me because I never heard this before. Gerald sent this out to our group yesterday when we were trying to figure out, are we missing any of these nicknames? And according to Basketball Reference, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, according to Basketball Reference, this is JaVale McGee's, one of JaVale McGee's nicknames. Anyway, one of his nicknames, because according to Basketball Reference, he's got a handful. But Big Daddy Wookie was the one that I thought was hilarious. And Gerald, I think you mentioned this in our group chat too. Can you just imagine a grown man who's his teammate calling him Big Daddy Wookie? Like that would be the funniest thing ever. So big fan of that one. It had to be on my list for sure.
I'm half convinced, like, you know, when you look at stuff on Wikipedia and you're like, okay, somebody definitely edited that themselves, that somebody got a hold of JaVale McGee's Basketball Reference page, because his nicknames are like, there's Pierre, there's The Great Adventure, there's Big Daddy Wookie, and it was The Big Secret. Which, like, I don't know where this nickname came from. Yes.
You need to follow up with him on this, Gerald. Like, you know, you said you wanted all the Landry Shamet nicknames. We need an explanation for all of the JaVale McGee nicknames too.
I do. The next time we get him in media availability, I'm going to have to pull the trigger and see if he's like, what? I've never heard that in my life, or if these are actually like legitimate nicknames, because I have no idea. I've never heard him be called any of these things.
No.
Also, has the homie actually been used on a regular basis, or is that similar to Big Daddy Wookie, where it's something we've heard as a nickname, but I've never heard that openly used for him?
No, I haven't either. I don't know. I was just
Mostly
perusing
on
Basketball Reference. Wait, what?
The homie for Dario? I feel like
Oh,
I've
the
seen it on
homie.
Twitter quite a few
So
times.
yes, so the homie for Dario is like that goes back to his Philadelphia days, I think, was when he originally started being called the homie. I don't think it was as popular in Minnesota because, like, let's be honest, his Minnesota stint was kind of miserable for both him and the fan base. But yeah, I think more in Phoenix, it's been more Super Dario since he's come here. I think that's the one that the fans have latched onto. But like his original nickname is still the homie.
Look, I would pay anything to hear Al McCoy call Dario the homie and JaVale Big Daddy Wookie. Like if I heard either of those, like those would both move to the top of the list right under the point guard. Like if I ever heard those actually used in a broadcast setting, that would go next level. All right.
That is so funny. I love that. We're gonna have to see if we can convince Al McCoy to use that at some point in time this season, at least for JaVale. And maybe if we get to see Dario later on, we'll see if we can convince him to do it.
I can probably convince John Bloom to do it for a road game on a day.
Oh, 100%. You could totally get him to do it.
So maybe I'll try that. Before we move on, though, you guys, what's the worst or best nickname that you've had?
Oh man, you just had to go there, didn't you?
Yes, Zewio, I did.
Because I've had a lot of unfortunate nicknames. Zewio was a sad one because that's when my Twitter got hacked. But the worst one, so when I was in like elementary school through middle school, even early in high school, I used to walk like on my toes, on my tippy toes. And I think it was a thing that came from basketball because I used to always just be on the balls of my feet. I was a defender. That's all I was good at. And so everyone kind of noticed that, unfortunately, and they started calling me Twinkle Toes because that's how I would walk around on my toes. And then there's always Jer Bear, which comes up, unfortunately.
Jer Bear. Love
Jer
that.
Bear. So I'm really regretting saying this on a live show right now, but those are the
Gerald,
two that.
Can I just say though, like the fact that throughout this whole process, you've been so open about just airing out all of the things about your personal life. Like I'm impressed. Like I gotta give you props for that because I wouldn't be able to do the same thing. That's for sure.
You're not including.
What was that?
You're not including well put together Pete Davidson? No.
Oh, I mean that's going to be up there if it sticks. I'm praying that flies under the radar. So thank you for bringing that one back.
No problem.
But yeah, I feel like if you keep it a
fly
secret,
under the radar, I think that's a compliment.
My girlfriend wasn't stoked about the slightly put together Pete Davidson comment.
No. Well, he is a polarizing person, so you got people on both sides, and they're far different opinions. So I guess I get that one. My nicknames are pretty lame. I've only ever been called Linz or LJ because my middle name is Jay. Other than that, I don't really know that I've had legitimate nicknames. Oh, well, yeah, I guess I had one. When I was a kid, my family used to call me Linny Lou.
Linny Lou.
And my grandma still calls me Linny. Yeah. So I don't know where that came from, but my grandma still calls me Linny. She's like literally the only one who still calls me that. But in my adult life, it's always just been Linz or LJ.
Or two-time.
Two-time. Big time.
What about you?
One of the embarrassing ones. So my full name is Gregory Louis Esposito. So my initials are GLE. Well, my aunt gave me a really nice bag for school. It was like a messenger bag, and it had my initials on it, right? Well, this is middle school, so everybody started calling me Glee, making fun of me, and that just kind of stuck for a little while. That was a pain in the ass. Didn't use that bag a lot at school for very long, and then Espo started when I was 18, my first radio internship, and that stuck. I'm pretty convinced 2/3 of the people that know me don't know my actual name is Greg.
So while the rest of the country was just being enthralled by the show Glee, were you like sitting there like traumatized, like I hate this show?
Yes.
You're like, I hate this show. This is bringing up bad memories.
Stupidest name ever. Damn singing teenagers. Yeah, it was not fun. So
Man, middle schoolers, they can be real mean sometimes, can't
Middle
they?
school sucked. But then again, Twitter and adulthood, very much like middle school. So I guess you
You're
never
not
get away
wrong.
from it, right?
You're not wrong. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for tapping in today. Before we get out of here, one more time, I want to tell you guys about the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use the code PHNX, bet $1 on any NFL team to score a point, and you could win $100 in free bets instantly. But Espo, I believe you have a pick of the week for us, something we should look into to see maybe if it's a bet we're willing to place.
Look, I'm going back to Crowder's Cash Club. It got recognized on the broadcast on Monday, and I'm feeling good. I think CP3 is going to reward us for Eddie Johnson asking him about setting Jay up. So I'm gonna say first field goal of the game for Friday's game. Give me a little Crowder's Cash Club. Going to put some scratch down on that again. See if we can get lucky. That is my DraftKings pick of the week.
The Crowder's Cash Club.
I think we have something, Lindsay.
Oh, I'm being told by our producer, Jacob, that we have something. Let's see. What is this here that we've got? Look at that.
I was expecting my head photoshopped on the cast of Glee, so thank God it wasn't that. Thank God.
No, we just dropped these in the PHNX locker sticker pack. So you guys, if you want to have a computer that looks like mine covered in stickers, if you want to put it on your water bottle or your notebook, or as Espo says, put it on your face. These are now available at phnxlocker.com for you to get just in time for the holidays and maybe a new semester if you're in school. So check that out, because I believe, Espo, correct me if I'm wrong, this is a limited edition drop, right?
They are. Once these are gone, they're gone. We will not put these same sticker packs out ever again. They will be different every time. So if you want to get these cool limited edition stickers, head over phnxlocker.com, and they're cost effective. You got a family member that's a big Arizona sports fan, you can get these for the holidays, and it ain't going to cost you that much. So look, it'll cost you less than it will cost you to bet on Crowder's Cash Club on Friday, is what I'm telling you. So get in there.
Yep, give them some really stickers to slap a Cove Crazy sticker right on your forehead there for Christmas.
Why not?
Great gift.
Gerald has decided, since he's not a big tat guy, he's just going to put these all over him, so he really looks like Pete Davidson. He's just going to stick her up. All right.
Yes. And as Hello in the chat says, like my dad says, once they're gone, they're gone. Oh, yeah. I read that wrong. Sorry, Hello. But yes, once they're gone, they're gone. So be sure to take advantage of that. Head on over to phnxlocker.com. And if you haven't become a member, go phnx.com to check all of that out. So thank you guys for tuning in. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at Lindsey Smith AZ. You can follow Gerald on Twitter at Gerald Bourguet. And of course, you can follow Espo on Twitter at Espo. We'll see you guys next time. Espo?
Hello, you're dead to me for the gleeful joke, and ahoy hoy.